I woke up this morning thinking about the dazzling and the boring. But what I was also doing was I was watching The Crown. In particular, I was watching season 3 of The Crown. It's the season where Princess Margaret goes to see LBJ in Washington and basically saves Britain's economic future because she secures a bailout, an economic bailout that England very much needed in the mid 60s. So Margaret goes to her sister and asks, you know what? I want to play a bigger role. Like, you can send me to more events, send me to do more things because I can be useful. Look how useful I was in Washington. We got the thing we needed. It was great. Meanwhile, Prince Philip, played by the brilliant Tobias Menzies, said that's the worst idea. And then he explained why. Prince Philip tells a story about how once he got drunk with the Queen's former private secretary, Tommy Lascelles. Now, at this point, Tommy Lascelles is retired. And he's sort of like the old guard stalwart. When Philip and Elizabeth first get married, he refers to him and all of the sort of old guard that served her father, King George, as the mustached men. The men that are kind of out of touch with modern stuff, blah, blah, blah. And he proceeded to share with Prince Philip his theory about the House of Windsor. He said, imagine there's a two-headed mythological creature. And this two-headed creature represents your family, the Windsor family. In the Windsor family, there have been the dazzling and the dull. He says that her father, and her grandfather, and her great-great-grandmother, dull. Elizabeth II, George V and VI, and Queen Victoria, dull. But alongside the dull ones, you have the dazzling ones. They're amazing, dazzling, and brilliant, but they're dangerous. They're dangerous to systems. For every Queen Victoria, you have an Edward VII. For every George VI, you have an Edward VIII. For every little bit, you get a Margaret. And he said that as great as she did in Washington, serious diplomacy can't be achieved with drinking and dancing, which frankly, I disagree. Let's not rewrite the rule book because she got lucky once, he says. Of course, in the end, she decides no, which devastates Margaret. The theory is that because of Margaret's position and because of her not having as much to do in her role and her not being able to marry the love of her life, that deeply affected her negatively. It affected both her physical and her mental health. But I know what Margaret's problem is. I'm also the second of 2 daughters. I'm the Margaret. My sister is the Lilibet. And like Margaret, I spent a good chunk of my life when I was younger trying to get people to respect and value me, both people in my own family and outside of it. And at a certain point, I realized that's a waste of time. There's no sense in wasting your energy trying to dazzle people who either don't care or are too short-sighted or too stupid to understand how amazing you are. Where the learning and the growth comes is realizing that you're not appropriate for all occasions, and that's okay. Margaret couldn't accept that. She wanted to be the main bitch all the time. She wanted to be the royal that's appropriate for all occasions, and she wasn't. But when they put her in the right situation, at the right time, with the right people, she dazzled and she, won the day. But she wanted to do that all the time. She wanted to feel that all the time. And you can't. Trying to do that will exhaust you. You have to get to a point where you, 1, understand that truth, and 2, don't care. I think at a certain point she might have understood that, but she cared, maybe to the day she died. And that's where she had trouble coping. I'm not appropriate for all occasions. I am dangerous to systems. That's kind of my goal, is to be a danger to systems. Because what I do here and what I'm going to be doing with my media company is to try to dismantle those systems. I am not appropriate for all occasions. If the occasions are planned by people who control or are in or want to maintain a system, because I am trying to dismantle the system. And whether Margaret admitted it or not, she was kind of trying to as well, a little bit. But the difference between her and me is that I don't care that I'm not appropriate for all occasions. I'm not trying to be. I am inappropriate for most occasions because I am a threat to these systems of power. And I don't care. I had this epiphany and I realized I don't care that I'm not appropriate for all occasions. And if you're anything like me, neither should you. Because I'm tired of respectability politics. I'm tired of walking on eggshells. I'm tired of bifurcating myself so that I can be this person, the person who's appropriate for occasions, but be my actual authentic self like the rest of the time. Because especially when you're neurodivergent, that bifurcation, splitting yourself in half all the time, that costs you. It costs you energy, it costs you joy, it costs you sanity. And I refuse to give any more of my joy to this system. I refuse to sacrifice any more of my energy, my time, or my happiness to this system. I'm done. I'm inappropriate for most occasions. And that's exactly the way I like it.